Hi guys, how are you doing today? Welcome back to Random Lifestyle Vlog. So today we're going to be talking about the new release from Chloe, and this is Chloe Nomade Jasmin Naturel Intense. So quite a mouthful, but this is what the packaging looks like. And this is a fragrance that was released this year. So in order to talk about this fragrance, I feel like we need to again go back in time and mention like how it all began. So the first fragrance in this line was this one over here. This is Chloe Nomade Eau De Parfum, and this fragrance is quite a unique one. This is a chypre floral fruity fragrance. The chypre part comes from this oak moss that's quite prominent. Other than that, it's quite floral, it's quite fruity. This fragrance has a lot of this kind of like warm spiciness to it, I would say. Some people can almost like detect like a cinnamon note. There's no cinnamon in it, but it's like a very kind of like warm fruity floral. There is some freesia in it, there is some like mirabelle, and these notes are going to appear in the next kind of like the flankers. But all in all, very unique, interesting fragrance. So after this one, we had Eau de Toilette that was released the following year. I actually have this one as well. This one, I would probably say it's even more unique than the original Eau de Parfum. It's mostly focused on the oak moss. We don't really have this mirabelle note. We have freesia, but the fruity part is pretty much lychee. So that sweetness and that warmth is pretty much taken away from this fragrance. It's very mossy. It's this kind of like a green chypre fragrance with a little bit of this fruity floral background. It's actually very interesting and quite a unique one. So these are the two fragrances I own. The following year we had the Absolute version, which was, I kind of find this to be like the mix of the Eau de Parfum and Eau de Toilette. So it's very kind of like green and mossy, just like the Eau de Toilette, but we also have this mirabelle that adds a little bit of the sweetness back to it. So I don't really own it. I don't think I actually needed this fragrance in my collection, but all of these fragrances are actually really good, and I think very much depends on the person which of these three fragrances you'll prefer. Last year, a new fragrance from this range was released, and I only have this kind of like a mini. I did not decide to buy a full size, and this is Chloe Nomade Eau Naturelle. So to be honest, I find this fragrance to be like completely different compared to the previous releases. I mean, apparently it does have some oak moss in the notes, but I can't really detect that much of it there. To me, this is mostly this strong jasmine, mirabelle, and dates concoction, so it's very sweet, and I think this fragrance is actually quite well blended, but that doesn't really work that well on my skin, to be honest. So even though I actually really wanted to like it, it's just on my skin, it just smells so sickly sweet that I cannot. So I was a little bit disappointed with this fragrance on my skin. I know there are people who love it, but it just didn't really work for me. So when I heard that they released like another fragrance, I was super curious how this is going to work. I was actually curious enough to blind buy it, which was a huge risk because there are so many people saying that these two fragrances, so the last year Eau Naturelle and then this year's Eau Naturelle Intense, Jasmine Intense, or whatever the name is, they smell pretty much identical. So do they smell identical? Let's have a look at the notes of this new release first. So in the new Nomade Jasmine Intense Naturelle, the notes are top notes, mirabelle and pear, middle notes, dates, Egyptian jasmine and freesia, and then base notes of sandalwood, vanilla, oak moss and patchouli. Okay, so I'm just going to put the notes of the last year's fragrance over here, and as you can see, there are many similarities. Like, you know, we have dates in both fragrances, we have mirabelle, we have jasmine. So these fragrances definitely look similar. We also have sandalwood and vanilla, which I don't really find sandalwood in this 2021 fragrance particularly pronounced, but you can definitely tell that these fragrances are going to be similar. So having said that, I don't think that these fragrances are identical like at all. To be honest, I actually really like this fragrance, the new one. This worked on my skin so nicely. I think the main difference is that this new fragrance is a little bit like less blended, and like particular notes are a little bit more prominent. So I can detect dates a little bit better, I can detect jasmine a little bit better, I definitely detect more of this sandalwood note that was mentioned before. So I definitely prefer how this new fragrance works on my skin. And to be honest, this is a type of fragrance I was imagining when I first tried the last year's release. So I would describe this fragrance as this a very kind of indulgent, sweet and warm fragrance. You can pretty much imagine like dates and like some floral notes with that. So I think this is a beautiful scent. This is not a particularly safe blind buy, so I would not recommend doing this unless you're not afraid of like buying a fragrance and not liking it later on. But I think this is definitely something that's worth testing. So as I just mentioned, I don't think these fragrances are identical, but they are definitely quite similar. So if you have this fragrance over here, which is the last year's version, you might be wondering whether there's a point of buying the new version as well. I personally do not think so. If you like this fragrance over here, they are quite similar. So you're not really going to, I don't know, receive a fragrance that's going to like change anything in your life. These fragrances are similar enough. So if you like this one over here, there is a chance that you might not even like this one as much. Because, you know, in my case, this is my favorite. This works perfectly. This one, sickly sweet to the point that I cannot really wear it. So I would probably say choose one of them. If you have one of them and you like it, there's no point of having the other one. And if you don't have any of those fragrances, bear in mind that they are completely different compared to the old fragrances. These are more mossy, classy, chypre fragrances. These are like full-on sweet, very warm, fruity florals. So that's what it is. The lasting power is actually quite good on this fragrance. It's also quite potent. So if you like fragrances with quite good sillage, you're going to have it in this fragrance. It does give me this kind of like a Moroccan or Egyptian holiday kind of vibe, if you know what I mean. It's very kind of like warm and sweet and beautiful. I would definitely recommend that you should test this fragrance and see whether this is going to work for you or not. And this is pretty much everything I have to say about it. Have you tried this fragrance already? If so, let me know what you think about it. Let me know whether you think this is actually identical to this fragrance over here, or can you also detect those differences? Thank you very much for watching. For more fragrance related content, check those videos over here. I'm going to see you very soon. Take care. Bye.